Hey, what's up guys? John here. Breaking news. Russia is considering to trade oil outside of the US dollar. So much for our sanctions, right? They want to trade in rubles to India, to China, to Saudi Arabia, which is going to do a couple things. It's going to allow these countries to drop their oil prices simply because Russia has so much supply of oil and there's less demand now that we are not going to be buying oil from Russia. And so what are they going to do? They're going to reduce prices to offload and sell as much of it as possible, meaning that these countries are going to be able to compete at levels that we simply won't be able to because our transportation costs and our costs across the board are simply higher. And so what's that going to do? It's going to bring massive problems potentially for everyday Americans. But we're also seeing massive inflation. Some would argue that it's 7% or 10% a year, but others would argue it's 20, 30, or maybe even higher every single year. And so what does this mean? It means that you could be paying a 2 to 3% tax simply on saving your money every single month. So what does that do to people that are on fixed incomes, people that are barely making it? It's a big problem. It is a huge problem. And what they're now proposing is a new universal basic income program that they're calling a stimulus program for gasoline prices. So we're gonna have some very, very big questions answered in the coming couple months. And I believe that we as Americans need to be sitting on a lot of cash because things are just gonna get more expensive. And if you don't have the liquidity, it's gonna be harder and harder and harder to go out there and make these purchases, especially at a time where they're considering to increase interest rates 5 or 6 more times in 2022. If that does happen, the cost to borrow and the cost of life is going to get out of control. And so the more cash you have, the more opportunities you'll have. But let's get ready for a big party because this thing is going to get out of control coming very soon. Drop your comments below on what you think about all of this. Hit that like button. If you hit the like button, YouTube's going to share this content, educate more people about what's really going on. Let's begin. Millions of Americans could receive payment for this new stimulus check program. It's more of a universal basic income. A trio of Democratic lawmakers proposed a bill last week that would introduce a new national stimulus payment aimed at offsetting the escalating pricing of gasoline. Should the bill pass, millions of Americans would be eligible for a stimulus check in any month where the national average gas price exceeds $4 per gallon. Well, many have already stated that the intent is to phase out gasoline, meaning that it's going to continue. This will not be a most likely short-term stimulus. This will serve more as a universal basic income as we continue to progress into this new destination. Representatives Mike Thompson of California, John Larson of Connecticut, and Lauren Underwood of Illinois introduced a bill March 17th. The Gas Rebate Act of 2022 would send Americans an energy rebate of $100 as well as another $100 for each dependent for any month when the national average gas price exceeded $4 per gallon. The new stimulus measure is designed to ease the impact of American families who have already been hit with the steepest rise of inflation in decades. Gas prices have also been escalating rapidly, and Russia's invasion of Ukraine contributed to the prices hitting record highs earlier this month. According to AAA, the current national gas average as of Thursday is $4.23. The national gas average topped $4 on March 16th, the first time in a decade. The company also said that the previous record high was $4.11, which was in 2008. The money from the proposed Gas Rebate Act of 2022 would be distributed in a similar manner as the stimulus checks for the federal government sent out in 2020 and 2021. Single filers earning less than $75,000 would receive the full rebate, while checks would be phased out for anyone earning above $80,000. Joint filers who earn less than $150,000 would qualify, but checks would be phased out for anyone earning $160,000. Americans are feeling the impact at the pump of Vladimir Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine, and right now we must work together on common sense policy solutions to ease out the financial burden that my constituents are feeling, Thompson said in a statement. The Putin price hike is putting strain on the economy, and I am proud to be working with Reps Larson and Underwood to introduce the legislation to provide middle-class Americans with monthly payments to ease the financial burden of this global crisis. Now, what I find very fascinating here is that the last 2 years, what have we learned? The more that we prop up the economy, the more that we keep interest rates at zero, and the more that we issue free money, the less value our money really is worth. So when we're continuing down a road where we're going to just continue printing more money, who's going to get really impacted? It's going to be the middle class, because the average middle class American earns about $32,000 a year, and it's going to be people on fixed incomes. We are going to see a situation with a real affordability crisis, and it's going to be happening in phases, it seems. In January, the Internal Revenue Service announced, this is Newsweek, by the way, in January, the Internal Revenue Service announced that the third round of economic stimulus checks have been issued to all eligible Americans. In 2021, the IRS sent out stimulus payments, officially known as economic impact payments, to more than 175 million Americans. The payments to individuals and families totaled over $400 billion. The Gas Rebate Act and other recent Democratic proposals seeking to address gasoline prices are expected to meet opposition from Republicans in Congress. Senate Finance Committee ranking member Michael Crapo and Idaho Republican discussed the various Democratic proposals during a Wednesday press conference. He claimed sending stimulus checks could continue to increase demand. If you add more federal spending, even if it's to give some temporary relief in terms of a gas card or something, you're adding to the demand side of that supply and demand economy that we live in, Crapo said, according to the roll call. And the end result ultimately will be higher inflationary pressures. We've got to deal with the supply side. Well, that would kind of be the common sense thing, in my opinion, would be if prices are too high. A very easy way to look at this: if you're in a real estate market and there's 10,000 people living inside of this market and there's 2,000 apartments, obviously the demand for apartments is going to exceed the supply, and the price is going to go through the roof, and it's mainly going to get to the place of whoever can afford to pay the most is going to be able to get shelter. Well, the same is going to apply in America with gasoline. If there's more people that need gasoline and there's less available supply, prices are going to continue. Now, what we're going to see is how this all rolls out. I personally get very concerned whenever I see an environment that is moving more towards dependence. For example, in New York right now, they are proposing a whole bill. It's called the Evict Your Landlord bill, where if a tenant has a rent increase of 3% or 1.5 times inflation, what will happen is that they will not be able to be evicted. They don't go into how long they're going to be able to stay in your apartment, but you will not be able to evict them. And they have other things where they're trying to get rid of the 421A tax rebate for developers in New York. What this serves is it serves affordable housing. So what the 421A does is it will give developers tax incentives if they allocate a certain amount of units towards affordable housing. And they have to do so for between 10 and 25 years. It's all negotiable. So they will say, okay, I'm going to build a 100-unit building. I'm going to give, hypothetically, 10 units or 15 units as affordable. And because of that, I'm going to decrease my tax cost. And because of that, then they can factor in lower cost to build. And maybe it makes a lot more projects make sense financially to actually go ahead and build on the front end. And if they intend to hold it long term, then there's value there on the upside. Now, what we're likely going to see is we're going to see those types of angles where they're going to start pulling away tax incentives from developers, from builders, and they're going to start really building out this new ecosystem. And I think this new ecosystem is going to be very interesting. It's going to be kind of concerning, because I think we're going to be stepping through this situation where we're going to see somewhat stimulus benefits, and some people are very happy and pleased with it because they need the money. And I'm not knocking anyone that needs the money for the stimulus, but it's going to a place to where over time, what are you going to be paying? What are you really paying for this short-term relief? Because nothing's for free in this world. What do you have to trade in for that short-term relief? And I think long-term, people are going to reflect back on what they gave for what they've received and wonder if it was a good deal. That's my big concern. I'm wondering, the overall body of Americans, if you took all of them or a large pool of them, and then we continue down this road over the next 3 to 5 years, and you ask people, what did you prefer? Did you prefer a time before all this, or do you prefer this current system? And I would bet a lot of people would say that they preferred everything before all this. But I'm curious as to what you think. What do you think about a monthly universal basic income for rising gas prices? It's unfortunate because a lot of people, they simply won't be able to make ends meet without some type of assistance, because inflationary pressures are just too much. If you're losing 2 or 3% of your purchasing power every single month, and you're only gaining a 3% yearly increase on your actual wages, people can't survive on that. And so it's kind of pushing people into a very challenging corner as to almost no other alternative. What do you think about all this? Drop your comments below, hit that like button, subscribe here, consider subbing on my second channel, my personal channel. I'm gonna leave the links to both pinned down below in the top comment. And if you're on TikTok, follow me on TikTok. I post 4 to 5 times a day there. A lot of content I won't post here. All right, guys, catch you later.